So hello everybody, I'm Catherine G. Lucas, author and authority on the transformational power of crisis. In other words, the way in which crisis can act as a catalyst for personal and planetary awakening. So I have a little message for you for the new year, for 2020. I'd like to really encourage you to fasten your seatbelts, because if things have been pretty intense already, then they're going to become even more so, I believe. So we're going to see things and feel things speeding up even more. One of the images that I use in my presentation sometimes on spiritual emergency is an image of a roller coaster, this huge, big dipper. And that's when I'm talking about spiritual crisis and the kind of awakening that comes from spiritual crisis at the personal level. And now we're seeing very much the same at the planetary level, really. It's a real roller coaster of a ride. And I want to really encourage you to not get too caught up in the drama, to kind of really step back and watch. This is where our mindfulness practice, our awareness practice comes in, to kind of really be able to distance ourselves a little bit from it, to be able to see that this is, what we're witnessing is the collapse of the old paradigm. It's the challenge of the old paradigm, of the old structures, the old hierarchies, the old structures of power. And it may not necessarily look like these are actually being dismantled, but they're certainly coming under huge pressure. And many of us are really questioning so much, socially, economically, politically, and of course environmentally. So one of the ways in which you can step back a little bit and not get so caught up in the drama is to be very mindful about how you kind of consume the media. So I would encourage you to choose outlets which are more aware and more sophisticated, and are not necessarily just negative the whole time. So for example, we have something like Democracy Now!, which you can find, and I'll put the link below as well. And Democracy Now! Is a kind of very kind of balanced, enlightened kind of way of doing the news, really. There's also positive news, which is always very kind of encouraging and kind of shows us that actually there is more happening out there than just the negative news that we see all the time. So I would really encourage you to think carefully about that, and maybe even to consider a news fast. You can do that just initially, just for a day or two, just to see what it's like to kind of not access any mainstream media for a day or two. And then, depending on whether that feels okay for you, maybe extend that to several days or even a whole week. Because then when you come back to the media, you will come back to it with fresh eyes, with new eyes. And so I think that can be quite helpful, quite useful. And in fact, I'm developing some new material at the moment around radical self-care. Because we are living through radical times, and so we need radical self-care. And this whole idea of how we consume the media and news fast is something that I'll be building into that. So I really encourage you for 2020 to not only think about the media, but also think about what it is that you want to see. What future would you like to see? Because at the moment, I think, so many of us, we're spending a lot of time focusing on what we don't want. It's very easy to see. It's really kind of in full view what we don't want. politically and economically, but particularly environmentally. And so I'd really like to encourage you to put your time and energy and efforts into what you do want to see and to create in the world, and then to explore ways of how you can help to create that, you know, whatever it is that you feel inspired by and called towards. Then find ways of, in your community, whether that's your local community or your online community, find ways of working with others to bring about some change, because that will really help you to feel less overwhelmed and less paralyzed and less anxious by everything that is happening. And again, I'm just developing some whole new material around how we co-create together, how we co-create our future. So look out for that, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates. And also I'll put the link below. You can sign up to my mailing list. That's the best way of finding out when I release new material. And yeah, so here's to a positive and hopeful and creative 2020. And remember that the process of spiritual crisis and awakening can get very scary. It can get very intense, and yet, you know, there is this potential, if we know how to work with it. There is the potential for extraordinary growth and healing and evolution. Go well. Bye for now.